It is no sign of health. It is no sign of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. So it seems like there could be a ceasefire deal. There's a draft of a ceasefire deal that's on the table that both sides, Hamas and Netanyahu, has agreed to in principle. Right now they're trying to hammer out the details, the exact parameters of the withdrawal. You have Egypt, so you got Al-Sisi, which is, a U.S. colony essentially with all the billions we give them. And you have Qatar, which Qatar might be crucial to actually broker a deal to be in the middle of this thing. And then you also have America. And America has sent 2 delegations. You got the Biden negotiation teams, and then you got the Donald Trump negotiating teams. And you got to give Donald some credit because he said that he wanted the end to the fighting on Inauguration Day. So today is Wednesday. That's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. They got 5 days to get this thing done. And I've heard people say that it could happen today. It could happen tomorrow. Or it could happen, the last day. It could happen like 1 or 2 days prior. Maybe it could even happen at the inauguration or maybe a day after or some shit like that. Now, I want to get into some of the details, but let's listen to what Joe Biden had said about this draft of the ceasefire, which was agreed to in principle. Again, this has not been finalized. And, to be honest with you, all these motherfuckers are a bunch of fucking lying pieces of shit. So I'm not going to hold my breath. But let's listen to the current president of the United States talking about this.
Palestinian people deserve peace and the right to determine their own futures. Israel deserves peace and real security. And the hostages and their families deserve to be reunited. And so we're working urgently to close this deal.
2 Israeli.
So there you go. Okay. He was able to form a coherent sentence there. I want to get through the facts without being so opinionated if I'm able to do that. So let's see here. J.D. Vance has clarified what Donald Trump had said. Donald Trump had threatened that all hell will break loose. All hell will break loose. Well, that's Revelations, right? That's the apocalypse. On the horse, you had a white horse. Death was riding a white horse. And then hell followed with him. And so that's what Donald Trump is threatening, the apocalypse, Revelations. All hell would break loose. Now, there's been some speculation that whether or not Donald Trump was talking to Hamas or whether he was talking to Netanyahu. And from what I hear and what makes a lot of sense to me is that Donald Trump actually put pressure on Netanyahu. Joe Biden just wants to suck fucking Netanyahu's dick. Just fucking, give him a rim job. Just kind of suck the buttermilk out of his goddamned asshole. But Donald Trump was actually putting pressure on Netanyahu. So all hell would break loose. He also had posted something on Truth Social about how he was just a dark, dirty son of a bitch. Netanyahu is. So Donald had posted some criticism of Netanyahu on his Truth Social. He's threatened that all hell would break loose. Meanwhile, Hamas says that they're waiting for the Israeli maps. They want to know the exact spots that Israel's going to withdraw from, and then specifically the details of where they want them to withdraw from is from the Netzarina region, which is in central Gaza, the Jabalia, the city of Jabalia in the north. They were wanting that to be the Israelis to withdraw from there, and then also Rafah and the Philadelphia Road in the south, which borders with Egypt. So Biden's saying that we're on the brink of a deal. We're on the brink of the deal. And the reason why those spaces, Netzarina, Jabalia, the Philadelphia Road, and Rafah, that kind of shows you the endpoints, right? So the highest part in the north and the south, and then I've heard a lot of different things, so I'll just try to stick to the facts. Hassan Abi had suggested that Donald had offered $100 million for the West Bank, and that's going to be very deadly. That's going to be deadly if Hamas gives up the West Bank, then that means everybody will be in the concentration camp of Gaza. And if you give up the West Bank, then you might as well just give up on the idea of a two-state solution. You either have a one democratic state where everybody is registered to vote, or you have a two-state solution. That's the only two peaceful fucking options. That's the only two peaceful fucking options. So the reason why it makes sense to me that Donald had actually put pressure on Netanyahu, because no other fucking administration has ever done that. And he's, about the money. He's all about the Benjamins. That's all, Donald gives a shit about. That's all Biden gives a shit about. Donald had done a bunch of things in his administration, but you didn't have the outright genocide. You moved Jerusalem, right? You moved the capital from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. You stole the Golan Heights and gave it to Israel, and then there were some bombings too. So there was some killings, but not like we've been seeing for the past year and a half. For the past year and a half, we've been seeing goddamn babies killed every fucking day. I heard a statistic that 3 school buses are being killed. 3 school buses of children are being killed every day in Palestine. And the numbers are not being accurately told. You had 18 Palestinians that were killed just yesterday and 40 that were killed today. And overall, it's been 300 to 400,000 killed. Now, the official numbers is like 46,000 or some shit like that, but you're not talking about those who have been injured, who ended up dying. You're not talking about those who had starved and who had died. And the fact that the killings happen every fucking day, and are you counting every single body? When it came to Iraq, we don't know if it was 1 million killed, 500,000 killed, 200,000. What is the official number? And actually, since you're the fucking perpetrators, right, you're the fucking murderers, well, what criminal do you know that'll go around just executing people and then making sure that they keep a accurate tally of all that they executed? It'd probably be smarter to just keep your mouth shut, right, if you're going to be a criminal fucking hitman, if you're going to be a criminal hitman, to just get as many hits as you can and not say a damn word. So the reason why I mentioned the killings of yesterday and today, these are airstrikes, so this is still Israel with U.S.-made bombs. They're still killing Palestinians, and most of them are kids. There was a pregnant woman, there was an 18-month-year-old, so a little baby, and then a pregnant woman who was 7 months-year-old. They didn't even name another baby. I don't know if they didn't name. It's 1.5 years, so they probably named that baby, but there's 2 fucking babies. It's fucking disgusting. Every goddamn day I see fucking pictures of children. Every goddamn day they got boils on their skin. They got cuts on the top of their head. They got limbs that's off. You got some that have no legs at all, and they're just crawling through the damn desert. You got bodies up in the rafters. You got pieces of bodies. You got pieces of a foot, pieces of an arm. I saw a little baby that was in a hole that was sitting there trying to grab a hold of the little camera drone that was looking at him. This genocide is fucking gross, and this genocide is fucking disgusting. And if I think about all the damn lies, 30,000 fucking lies? Every goddamn day that fucking Donald lied and talked a bunch of shit. Every fucking day he did when he was in power, 4 years ago. And if you compare and contrast the genocide, I know this is all under Biden, and that's why Kamala lost. The liberals are supposed to be bleeding heart. They're supposed to give a shit. These ain't liberals. These are right-wing fucking neoconservative motherfuckers. These are, at the nicest, you could say they're neoliberal. But they were for the Iraq war. They were for the neocon agenda. Neoliberal, neocon. They're a bunch of imperialist fucking bastards. A bunch of imperialist anti-constitution Bill of Rights. So, Kamala losing was a crack against Zionism. You think the resistance is going to end? No, the resistance will carry on, and so this is a perfect way for Donald to embarrass Biden, to get the deal that he couldn't get made, and then he could, claim a win. But I just, I don't trust the motherfucker. When it comes to the contractors, sure, I'll pay you $20,000 to build the building. What $20,000 deal? I never made that deal, so he'll weasel his way out of the deal. He'll, renege on the deal, but he's not going to. 30,000 lies to the contractors. There was another big fucking lie that he had talked about. COVID. He didn't want to know the truth of COVID. His whole thing is to attack. So, okay. Let's get back to the facts. So, are they going to annex the West Bank? There's no Palestinian state if they do that. Did he threaten Netanyahu or Hamas? Probably both in some respect, but J.D. Vance, of course, is going to tell AIPAC and all the fucking people that filled Donald's coffers up that it was Hamas that they were threatening, and he had said, well, you're going to attack the final battalions. No, it's all hell will break loose because Donald's going to blow up Hamas. So he's got to do the PR fucking thing, right? That's what J.D. Vance's role is, to go on all the news shows and try to kind of cover up all the fucking bombast or the, mistakes and the faux pas and the... So I think that all hell will break loose was for both of them, but because he put pressure on Netanyahu, I think that Israel should be worried that maybe they were talking about Netanyahu. Also, aggressive sanctions, financial penalties. So that's what Donald meant. That's what J.D. Vance says Donald meant with all hell will break loose. Aggressive sanctions, financial penalties, and then they're going to bomb the shit out of the final battalions of Hamas. So there's a big problem with attacking the final battalions of Hamas. The Hamas is the Palestinian people. It's like attacking Viet Cong. Well, who's the Viet Cong? Well, the Viet Cong are the Vietnamese people that are sympathetic to the Viet Cong. Who's Hamas? The more you attack Palestine, the more their approval rating goes up. They had an approval rating, of 34% in the beginning of last year, and then by the middle of last year, Hamas had approval rating of 40%. So the outline of the deal is clear. They're saying that the parameters, right, the draft of the ceasefire has agreed to in principle. It's all about the implementation. It's about the logistics. There's a first phase, and I'll talk to you about the first phase. So 33 hostages are supposed to be released. I've also heard 5 female hostages. I don't know why we call the Israelis hostages and then the political prisoners of, the Palestine. The Israel has like 9,000 Palestinian prisoners. How come they're not hostages? So let's actually just say hostages. I heard that 250 Palestinian hostages are going to be released for 5 female hostages. And then I've also heard 33 hostages are going to be released from Palestine to Israel. So this goes back to the October 7th, attack. October 7th attack was 1,200 Israelis were killed, and then Hamas had kidnapped 250 hostages. They're not just going to release 33 hostages, but they're also going to release some of the bodies. So there's 100 overall. Palestine is going to give back 100 hostages and or the bodies of the hostages that were taken on the October 7th kidnapping in exchange for either, 100, 250, or 1,000 prisoners, or maybe 1,500 prisoners, the hostages. So Israel's going to release their hostages of the Palestinians, maybe up to 1,500, maybe as low as 250. They got 9,000 hostages. So when it comes to the hostage deal, it almost seems like Palestine's going to give up all the hostages that they took, and Israel's only going to give up about 10%, maybe 20% of the hostages that they took. Now you have the West Bank is in question. Lebanon's already negotiated a ceasefire. Yemen has been firing rockets, intermittently into Israel. And then Iran, I think, had bombed them a couple times. Iraq was getting all pissed off about the Palestinian deal. In December, rockets were fired from Gaza into Israel. So it's not like Hamas has been conquered yet. In fact, they probably will never be conquered because they would be the spirit animals. They're the spirit animal of the Palestinian people. So the logistics of the deal need to be hammered out, the implementation, and it needs to be finalized. Hamas is waiting for the Israeli maps. And either they want a 2-state solution or a democratic state for everybody. Everybody gets registered to vote. Now, the reason why Hamas can't be destroyed, well, just look at the facts. Hamas was founded in 1987 when Palestine had the elections. Hamas was the one that was elected. They've withstood 1 year and 4 months. Hamas has withstood 1 year and 4 months of basically the worst, most intensive bombardment and military campaign since World War II. 1 year and 4 months. So when it comes to the Vietnamese, well, we're going to stop them from being communist. We're going to try to tell them how to run their economics. If they want to run their economics like communists, well, then the idea of, communism, you'll run out of other people's money. Won't they just bankrupt themselves? Why do we got to bomb Vietnam? Basically, we had no moral righteousness. We had no moral high ground to invade Vietnam, and then if it's just a military campaign, we're not going to win any hearts and minds. So maybe they had better tactics, maybe we had better tactics, but ultimately, since the Vietnamese were pissed off that they were being invaded, there's no better way to unite a people, to unite a nation, than a foreign invasion. Just imagine any random-ass country, let's say Bolivia. If Bolivia just invaded the shit out of America, took over Texas, Montana, New York, California, 4 states were being occupied by the Bolivian armies and navies and Air Force, and I don't even know if they have, an Air Force at all, but how pissed off should Americans be, right? The American nation, if any foreign nation was to invade America, there's no way better to unite that nation. And frankly, I think that might be a good way to see if there's a nation there to begin with at all. So Hamas can't be defeated. Hamas is an idea, and you cannot kill an idea. You know what Hamas means? In Arabic, it means enthusiasm. It means zeal. They're talking about how Islamic Jihad is going to go to Doha in Qatar. So Islamic Jihad is going to go to Doha, Qatar, to be a part of the talks. How does that sound? Islamic Jihad versus Hamas. So Islamic Jihad is holy war, right? An Islamic holy war. But Hamas is zeal, enthusiasm. You're going to what? Destroy zeal? You're going to destroy enthusiasm? You can't kill enthusiasm. You cannot kill zeal. Maybe holy wars you can, destroy. Theocracy. You want to talk about genocidal theocracies. That's what it was claimed by that Pierre Paul Varello, whatever, from Canada of Iran. But hell, that's the pot calling the kettle black when it comes to Israel. Are they not a theocracy? The only democracy in the Middle East. Give me a fucking break. So Hamas has survived an intensive bombardment military campaign. It's an idea that can't be killed. You got the idea that's implanted in the hearts of the Palestinian people, and nothing unites a people as a foreign invasion does. So they still fired rockets from Gaza in December. So you got these marathon talks in Qatar. Iran, they said, has been weakened, but Iran has fired a couple rockets into Israel. Yemen seems to be the poor brother in arms. Yemen's been the poor brother in arms with Palestine. Palestine's been essentially fighting against Israel by themselves, but every once in a while, Yemen will just fire a shit ton of fucking rockets into Israel. The biggest catalyst would be Donald Trump, but he's a compulsive pathological liar when it comes to stiffing the contractors, when it comes to weaseling out of things. He lied 30,000 times in his first administration, and then there was an idea that was floated which actually scares the shit out of me. Maybe this is Donald's ploy to get Hamas to stand down, to get Hamas to drop their guard and then to attack. Get Hamas to drop their guard and then attack them like it's a secret game plan by Donald. There's also something about the spy group, the Israeli spy group, the NSO group, for the sanctions to be dropped against the NSO group. So it seems like there could be some backdoor little, here's a little sugar on the deal. Here's a little, and then $100 million. Hassan Abi, I'm not sure what he was talking. I haven't heard that anywhere else. But Hassan Abi said that apparently Donald might pay $100 million for the West Bank, and then they go to Gaza, and then they withdraw out of Gaza, but they take over the West Bank. Hamas wasn't even in the West Bank. They were destroying the streets of the West Bank. Why would they fucking take the West Bank? That had nothing to do with Hamas and the war and the fucking so-called hostages and October 7th and the rest. So Hamas is still waiting on the Israeli maps to see how the withdrawal is going to play out. Alexander the Great said that when he fought against the Gazans, fucking 2,000, 3,000 years ago, that the Palestinian Gazans fought until their death. They died standing at their post. They died tied to their post. They were there to protect that little, area, and that's where they died. So to think that you're going to push a people out that's been there for thousands of years is pretty fucking crazy. So J.D. Vance says maybe it'll be the last day that this deal could happen. We're still waiting on we're waiting on Israel to produce the maps to show Hamas where they're going to withdraw from, how they're going to withdraw. And then when it comes to the specific wording of the deal, you got the first stage, the second stage, the third stage. A big problem, another big problem. We already had a fucking first stage. We already had a first phase. In November of 2023, that was the first ceasefire. Half of the hostages were released for Palestinian hostages. But then it never got to phase 2. So they started with the prisoner exchange, which is what the fuck this is. Hostages for hostages, prisoners for prisoners. They have prisoners, but they got hostages. Give me a fucking break. They're either both prisoners or they're both hostages. And if it wasn't for the apartheid and the occupation, maybe Israel shouldn't have been created to begin with. When you got 3 million people already living on a land and then 3 million people want to live on that land, but we want to live on your land. But we live on our land, and we like living on our land. Well, shit, there's going to be problems. That's according to Truman. So it's important to allow the Palestinians to return home. And so 33 hostages apparently are going to be released by Palestine. Children, women, men over 50, and the wounded and the sick. And so that sounds to me like a good faith effort by Hamas. That means you still got 66 prisoner hostages that still need to be released, but then you're going to get, 250 to maybe 1,500 of the prisoner hostages released from Israel. Well, then that still leaves 7,500 prisoner hostages that Israel has. So even though the numbers look skewed, because it's like, here, I'm going to give you 100 prisoner hostages, now you give me 1,500, well, that's 15 persons to 1. But then if you think about the body count, that's what? 300, 400 eyes to 1 eye? That ain't eye for an eye justice. And then if you look at the percentage, basically Israel gets all their hostages back, whereas Hamas only gets 20% of their hostages back. So this is being mediated by Egypt, Qatar, and the U.S. Let's see here. Biden says that this deal was to free the hostages. He always talks like an asshole. They're going to stop the fighting, give security to Israel. Oh, that's nice. So give security to Israel, so more guns and bombs, and then maybe get some humanitarian aid to the Palestinian people. Yeah, fucking right. We've heard that same shit before. You were going to give humanitarian aid to Palestine before you lost your fucking election. Kamala lost and Biden lost because they're for fucking genocide. That's their goddamn legacy. They have to get a fucking deal. It makes Donald look good, and then we've been wanting peace in the Middle East for fucking years. So the fact that they actually pressured Netanyahu for a goddamn change, just keep on pressuring Hamas and act like the oppressed is the fucking goddamn perpetrator. Well, we kept bombing them, and then they were nice, and then they got all pissed off, and then they started bombing us. Can you believe they started bombing us? Yeah, after you've been fucking oppressing the fuck out of them for 50 years, I do fucking believe that. Have you tried to treat them like people? Have you tried to treat them like equals? Have you tried that fucking philosophy? So there's going to be an exchange. There's going to be a security buffer zone. So they're going to withdraw from a lot of places, but they're going to try to have a security buffer zone. So they're not going to win this militarily. It's got to be a political settlement. That's been obvious for really over a year. Netanyahu has domestic pressure, and Netanyahu's got a bunch of judicial fucking issues too, so he's been trying to avoid having to go to court and talk to the judge. So Netanyahu is trying to avoid that by carrying on this fucking war until the end. He's going to wipe out all of Hamas. You're going to genocide all the Palestinian people. Shut the fuck up, man. So the draft of the ceasefire has been agreed to in principle. They have not finalized it yet. I'm not even for sure if Israel's agreed to the damn thing, but essentially, in principle, they've agreed to the big parts, and they're waiting for the specifics. Hamas is waiting for the Israeli maps. If they don't sign the deal, Israel and Hamas, then Donald says that there's going to be hell to pay. Steve Witkoff is a name that was mentioned. I'm not sure if he was a negotiator. Jake Sullivan says that the deal is there for the taking. The deal is there for the taking. Apparently, there's 30,000 U.S. troops stationed at Central Command, which I guess is in Tampa, Florida. So Netanyahu is getting pressure domestically, internally from his own people, and then Donald is also pressuring Netanyahu at the same time. So that's what broke the log jam. The deal is close, but no cigar. It hasn't been finalized. There hasn't been any signature on a contract. And then, of course, promises were made to be broken, right? The only verbal agreement that's agreed to is one that's in writing. Biden, when he says that we almost got a deal, we're on the brink of a deal, he also mentioned, well, the war that Hamas started, get the fuck out of here. Israel started in 1948, and then it's been apartheid occupation that they started and maintained ever since. So I'm not sure what $100 million Hassan Abi is talking about with the West Bank. So I would love to know what the fuck they're talking about. And then also Anthony Blinken said that they're waiting on the Hamas response, but he also said that this was a final proposal. All right, this is the final solution. The final proposal before what? All hell breaks loose. I could see Donald threatening both of them. The Palestinians, he called Joe Biden a Palestinian as a pejorative at the debate. What are you, Joe Biden, some sort of Palestinian? If that's not, it's like calling the natives savages. It's like dehumanizing them. They're rats, right? They're just a bunch of fucking cockroaches. You dehumanize them before you genocide them. Nits make lice. That's what a Tennessee fucking governor had said about some Native Americans a long time ago in the United States history. So the deal could be announced today or tomorrow. The hopeful people are saying that, but then they're also saying that the deal might be the last day. So before Monday, January 19th, right, or the 20th, or maybe even afterwards, who knows. So it's like they got the big fucking details already agreed to, but they need to hammer out the minor details. They need to figure out how they're going to implement this, how to do the logistics. They got right-wing protesters right now that's against the Gaza hostage release deal, which, what the fuck are you guys talking about? You don't want to release the hostages? It's all about the fucking hostages, isn't it? You're going to get your fucking hostages back. Yeah, it's never been about the hostages. It's been about stealing fucking land. That's what it was about in 1948. It's what it's been about with the fucking settlements, the encroaching settlements. That's what Netanyahu has been about. Netanyahu thinks he controls America with his pinky finger. He thinks that America basically will just come to his beck and call. So I used to think that Israel was our pit bull in the Middle East, but actually we're the pit bull that protects Netanyahu. So we're the fucking pit bulls. We're the fucking dogs of war that protect that fucking bastard. When he calls, we say, yes, sir, jump how high. We are so fucking obedient to that fucking foreign nation. It's disgusting. That ain't America first. That's America last. So maybe Donald is trying to get Hamas to drop their guard so they can attack. Maybe they're trying to get the NSO group, the Israeli spy group, back up and running by dropping the sanctions. Maybe there's a secret game plan. Maybe there's $100 million exchange. I don't fucking know exactly. I know that it hasn't been finalized. I'm also not going to hold my breath. Oh, the dreamers. So you have 30,000 lives, right? Donald likes to tell the contractors that if you do the job, he'll pay them. But then what about the dreamers? So the dreamers signed up, so that means they're on a list. And even though 8 million of the tomato pickers will make me mad, you're going to fucking deport not the criminals, not the undocumented, not the ones that are in the shadows, not the, so-called bad people, but 8 million of the immigrants that are in America are working good jobs. They are legal, lawful immigrants who are working the crap jobs. They're picking tomatoes. That will piss me off if that's part of the mass deportation. But what utterly piss me right the fuck off is if he deports the dreamers. Talk about lying. Hey, if you just sign up for this and you're the dreamers, then we'll protect you. All right, I'll sign up. The dreamers are ones that were not born in America, but they were brought to America when they were just 1, 2, 3, when they were brought to America at a very young age. All they know is America. They know nothing else but America. So the inauguration, definitely he has been the catalyst. Donald's been the catalyst. It's in Doha, Qatar. Biden and Donald's got negotiation teams. That sounds like they're going to withdraw from most of Gaza. And then there's, is it 5 females released for 250 prisoners, hostages? The final details haven't been hammered out. Sissy says that flexibility is absolutely key.